So what does it really mean to belong to a country? Is it about where you happen to live? Maybe what you contribute? Or is it just a feeling in your gut? Today, we're going to tear down the idea of nationhood to get to the cold, hard, legal truth behind that very human emotion.
Let's just dive right in with a tough one. Imagine you live somewhere, you've got a job, you pay a lot in taxes every single year. Does that contribution earn you a say in how that country is governed? I mean, it kind of feels like it should, right?
But when we step away from what feels right and look at the actual law, the picture gets way, way clearer. And for a lot of people, it's pretty surprising. So let's peel back the layers on this.
Okay, first things first. Before we can start busting all these myths, we need to build a toolkit. And that means we got to start with the strict, no-nonsense definitions of what a nation and a citizen actually are in the eyes of the law. See, a nation isn't just a place with a shared culture or a vibe. Legally, it's a state. And for a state to even exist, it needs 5 key ingredients. You need a defined territory, a population living there, a government, sovereignty, which just means it's in charge of its own affairs, and it has to be recognized by other countries. And here's the kicker. You need all 5. No exceptions.
And this, right here, this is where the rubber meets the road. A citizen is someone who legally holds the nationality of that state. A non-citizen doesn't. You could have a non-citizen resident who pays way more in taxes than a lot of citizens, but that right to vote, it's tied to your nationality, not your tax bill. It's that simple. One group has a legal stake, the other one doesn't. All right, let's roll into our first big fallacy, the argument from contribution. This is the whole idea that you can earn rights by, well, paying your dues, either with your tax dollars or just by living somewhere for a long time.
This is probably the one you hear the most. And it makes sense. It appeals to our sense of fairness, right? Hey, I'm putting money into the system. I should get a voice in how it's run. But does that heartfelt plea actually hold up legally? Well, the short answer is nope, not at all. In fact, there is basically zero legal connection between paying federal income tax and having citizenship rights. Get this, nearly half of all U.S. citizens pay 0 federal income tax. 0! Yet they keep every single right, including the right to vote. Meanwhile, many non-citizens are paying higher tax rates with none of those rights. The two things are totally separate.
Okay, so if taxes aren't the magic key, what about just time? The emotional pull on this one is huge. I mean, somebody's built their entire life in a place. They've been a neighbor, a friend, part of the community for 20, 30, even 40 years.
But legally speaking, time alone changes nothing. Living in a place, even for your whole life, is not the same thing as being a legal member of that state. Citizenship is something that's granted through a very specific formal legal process. It's called naturalization. It's something you have to apply for, not something you get automatically for sticking around.
So, if your contributions don't make you a citizen, and your time there doesn't either, what about something deeper? This brings us to our next set of myths, and these are maybe the most powerful ones because they come straight from the heart.
Kind of feeling, a really sincere feeling of identity, actually override a piece of paper. You know, if you love a country, you embrace its values, and you just feel in your soul that you belong. Does the law even care?
Well, this quote from Professor Zhang Guocheng just cuts right through it. He says, if that were true, America would have 2 billion citizens. And it's so true. While that feeling of belonging is super important, it's just not a practical way to run a world of nation-states. Millions, maybe billions of people identify with certain ideals, but that doesn't make them citizens. And you can see this all over the world. Just think about it. If speaking the same language and sharing a culture meant you were the same nationality, our world map would look totally different. Austrians speak German, but they don't have German passports. Australians speak English, but they're not British citizens. Statehood is a legal thing, not a cultural one. All right, on to our final fallacy, and this one has gotten really popular in our interconnected world. It's the idea that for the really talented, the idea of a nation-state is just old-fashioned.
The argument kind of goes like this. My skills are in demand everywhere. I can work wherever, live wherever. I'm a citizen of the world, right? Why should I be boxed in by some old lines on a map?
It sounds great in theory. But here's the fundamental problem. Who guarantees your rights? When you get into trouble in another country, which embassy do you call? Who gives you the passport that lets you cross a border in the first place? All those rights and protections, they come from states. And right now, there's no world government to pick up the phone. So after knocking down all these myths, we have to ask the biggest question of all. Why does any of this matter?
What are the real, actual consequences of having or not having a specific nationality?
Wow, this is such a powerful, real-world example. You have someone who is clearly talented enough to get a job at CNN, one of the biggest news organizations on the planet. Her skill was recognized, but without the right legal paper, which was tied directly to her nationality, all that talent meant nothing. She couldn't take the job. The passport was the ultimate gatekeeper. And you've probably seen a version of this in the movie The Terminal. It's a perfect illustration of this nightmare. The main character's country literally disappears overnight, and his passport becomes worthless. He's not just a tourist stuck somewhere, he's legally nobody. He belongs nowhere. He's trapped because there's no state left to claim him. But this comparison from the movie Captain Phillips, this might be the starkest example there is. The Somali pirates were incredibly skilled sailors, no question about it. But when it came down to it, their skill didn't matter. What mattered was that one of those captains was a U.S. citizen, and that meant he had the entire U.S. Navy ready to come to his rescue. His nationality was his ultimate protection. When you're in a real crisis, the backing of a country can be the only thing that matters.
So, in the end, nationality isn't about how you feel or what you pay or how much you identify with a place. It's a legal status, and it has massive real-world consequences. It decides your rights, your protections, your opportunities, and that leaves us with a really tough question to think about. In a world that feels more connected every day, how do we balance our very human need to belong with the cold, hard lines of legal citizenship?